You work for 2.5 years on a project and you pour so much money, time, blood, sweat, tears into something. I never imagined I'd get to ship my car to the other side of the world and compete in Time Attack's biggest event. It was monumentally stressful, but all I could do was focus on the fact that we did everything we could. Let's make this car work. Let's make it do what it was built to do.
In today's world of car builds, it's not easy to conjure up a truly unique concept for a car. Although when Mike decided to create his one-off K24 Ferrari 308, he got as close as anyone could.
My name is Mike Burroughs from Stanceworks.com, and I'm from Costa Mesa, California. In order to build a car like the Ferrari, my mindset's always been that if somebody else can do something, I can learn to do it too. Doesn't mean I can do it as well, but there's definitely an ability to learn new skill sets, and so there's never a time to place limits on myself. I knew from the get-go when I bought the Ferrari exactly what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know exactly how far I'd take it, but I knew before I ever purchased the car that I'd be pulling that old antiquated V8 out of it, I'd be sticking a K24 underneath the hood, and that we'd be redoing pretty much every aspect of the car to make it better in every metric. I wanted a car that performed as good as I think the Ferrari looks.
The car proved to be a very polarizing project, and with this attention, it pushed Mike and his Ferrari to the forefront of the international car community.
When I got the call to come to Australia, it really kind of felt like a punctuating point to the project at that time. You work for 2.5 years on a project and you pour so much money, time, blood, sweat, tears into something, and you have an idea of what you want to do with it. In this case, you want to take it racing, but you never know, or maybe don't have a specific goal for that. And I never imagined I'd get to ship my car to the other side of the world and compete in Time Attack's biggest event. So when I got that phone call and the opportunity to come do this, it felt like the answer to everything I had been working for so far.
When the time came to send his car across the world, Mike handed his Ferrari over to be packed into a container. A few long months later, when the container from California dropped onto the tarmac in Sydney, the anticipation, excitement and nerves could be felt from everyone on Mike's crew as the doors swung open.
Wondering what the car was going to look like when it came out of the container, because I'm not the one that got to load it. We handed it off to a professional shipper, and then I had to trust them with a car I hadn't let out of my sight for 2.5 years to successfully load it and ship it to the other side of the world. But thankfully, when we pulled it out, the car looked good, it was completely damage-free, and it appeared like it was going to be ready for competition right away. I've got to say, Sydney Motorsport Park is an unreal facility. Not only is the track itself amazing, and I'm eager to come back and drive it some more, but the facility is unreal. All of the services, the professional nature of it, it made the event itself feel larger than life. And I think that is a testament not only to how seriously Australia takes their motorsports, but to what you guys are doing here for the sport of Time Attack.
Before turning it up to 11 and pelting around Sydney Motorsport Park, the team thought it would be a good idea to give the car a health check. So the car was loaded up and brought to Haltech HQ in Western Sydney. This also gave us a chance to look over the tune and work on a few finishing touches. 2023 was the first year since the world was locked down that the World Time Attack Challenge saw international competitors make their way to Sydney Motorsport Park. A huge international contingent graced our shores from the USA, Japan and New Zealand, and everyone made sure to bring their A game.
We are here at World Time Attack Challenge. It's Friday morning. We've been working, ready to get the car for this moment. It's a long time coming. Tuning yesterday went really well. Practice sessions had a couple of little hiccups, but we're eager to get out on track and start, this competition debut. It's been an incredible journey so far, all of it towards this moment. So fingers crossed it goes well. It was a heartbreaker. We did our first lap during competition, our out lap, and the transmission broke. It jumped from second to third gear. We kind of knew we were gonna have a hurt dog ring from testing on Thursday. Transmission was shifting itself, and that's definitely not something you wanna have happen. And when it did it on our out lap, it took all the teeth off the gear with it. At least that's what we assume, because second gear is completely gone. No longer wants to shift into first or third, and it sounds like a bag of marbles has been emptied into the thing. When you're on the other side of the world trying to compete in a race and your car breaks, you feel as far from home as you really are. You don't have any of your tools, you don't have any of your spare parts. And when we sent the car out, I sent it with very few spares. We took all of our spare parts in a carry-on on the plane, a testament to the fact that we're not a professional race team. We're not here with an unlimited budget. And the one thing I said I didn't want to have happen was to break a transmission. I knew that if we lost any other part of the driveline, such as the engine, we could find a K24 to swap into place. We could take all of our parts, swap them over, and maybe we won't make the same power, but we can still get the car around the track. But I knew that if we broke a transmission, we're gonna be dead in the water because it's a specialty piece. They're hard to find. They only come from one company, and what are the chances we're gonna find a spare on the other side of the world? And so when we lost the transmission, there was definitely a few heart-to-heart conversations with my friends and even my dad, sitting there trying to decide, do I just do my best to enjoy the day, enjoy this incredible event, the rest of the experience, and not dwell on the fact that the car is absolutely not going to drive again, or do we try to come up with a solution? And when I told one of my buddies, we got to try to find a transmission, he said, there's no chance that's going to happen. So we thought about calling it a day at that point, but we got really lucky. The guys over at JDM Yard had a Quaife transmission in stock, which is incredible. They said, hey, if you guys replace it, you can take this one. So we're gonna order one up as soon as Momentum Motorsports opens later tonight, because they're in England. And we're gonna go on and throw this one in the car. We are just about ready to pull the engine out. My guys have been an insane amount of help. We've gotten the engine ready to come out in about an hour and a half, which is a record for us. So with any luck, it'll come out, we'll throw the new transmission on, and then it all goes right back together. Fingers crossed, no issues, and we'll be on the track first thing tomorrow morning. We pulled the car back into the pit, we got it up on stands, and it became an all-hands-on-deck thrash to pull the engine out of the car along with every other component. The manifold, the turbo, the entire exhaust, the dry sump system, the oil tank, Everything has to come out to get the transmission out. It's the last part. And it was an all-night thrash, and thankfully we got it done. All of my friends who came along on this trip were willing to put in every ounce of effort, every hour, and throw away every other responsibility they might have to help get this car back on track.
So it's the Saturday World Time Attack, and the World Time Attack Challenge has bitten. Mike Burroughs in his Ferrari have had a bit of a drama where the gearbox has failed, so it's been replaced overnight. The guys have put it back in, we've just got the engine up and running, and now we're here doing the calibration for the gear position sensor. So after it's had a new sequential gearbox put in, I want to make sure that the engine management system knows exactly what gear is where on the position sensor. So we put it into reverse, we'll calibrate it, neutral, calibrate it, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, we'll calibrate it. Then we'll go through and have a load at the load cell calibration and make sure that's all sorted so that the next time that Mike goes out, which will be one of the qualifying runs here at World Time Attack, we'll make sure that that gearbox will shift absolutely flawlessly.
I had to assume the role of kind of supervisor for some of this stuff. There's an advantage to having a bunch of friends willing to throw down and turn wrenches on your car, but when you're the one who built it and you're really the only one who knows how it all goes together, when it's a giant puzzle of oil hoses and lines, tubes, parts, and pieces, you kind of have to help everybody know where everything goes, how it comes apart, what order it has to be done. And so thankfully we were able to increase our efficiency and have a lot of hands turning, but I was definitely pointing in each direction trying to say, all right, hey, you're tackling this, you're tackling that.
But just as the team were getting ready to fire up and send the car out, they were confronted with yet another setback.
The problem was, even with the engine and a new transmission back in place and in the car, we found one critical error, a 10-cent piece that was going to keep the car from going back out on track. The slave cylinder clutch line with internal threads had somehow gotten stripped, and none of us are sure when it happened because it unthreaded easily, but when we went to go put it back together so we could actually have hydraulic clutch pressure, it just came apart. It fell apart in our hands, and without an ability to operate the clutch, a new transmission is useless. We figured, okay, well, let's sleep on it. Maybe we'll come up with a solution come morning time. But I got a text at 3 a.m. from the same fellow who gave us the gantry to pull the engine out, and he said, call this guy, he will help you out. And it was Motorsport Connections. I gave him a call, and I said, here's the problem. I explained what we had to work with. I sent him some photos, and he said, not an issue. I'll be there. I'm on my way. I've got the parts. I think we can fix this. He showed up, and this guy was willing to climb underneath the car, cut our hydraulic lines, and fit new fittings to them in situ, underneath the car, minutes before we needed to go out.
And with the green light on, the team had the car back together and running with no time to spare. It was time for Mike to lay down his first flying lap at the World Time Attack Challenge. first time on Australian soil, and in a car virtually untested, Mike managed a very respectable 1 minute 43 seconds. Good on you, mate.
But when I look back and I think about the accomplishment itself, the fact that we got here, we got the car working, we did turn laps, and they were successful. I got to drive this car hard, even if I'm still working on finding the limit of that car, and that I'm working on finding the limit of the track and how to drive it. It's a success any way you cut it, and I'm ecstatic about it. This is what I built this car to do, and we're doing it. There's nothing more to it. As you guys can see, the sun has gone down. We have finished our last session here at the World Time Attack Challenge, and the day was incredible. I could not have asked for this to go better by any measure. Everybody got this car back together. My guys were incredible in making today happen, and I've had a blast. I'm almost speechless. This was an amazing event. I'm looking forward to coming back. As far as how the session went, the car feels really good. We had no issues whatsoever. It was our best session of the day. I got the most laps in. I went the fastest that I had been. And I've got to come back so I can go faster. Of course, this is a learning process with the car. I'm still getting comfortable with it. I've now driven the car more here in Australia than I have driven it, period. Honestly, I was welling up with tears. I saw my guys standing there cheering me on, and then behind them, dozens, if not hundreds of others. I could hear the cheers over the car itself, and it was probably one of the most magical moments I've had, not only as a car builder or as a driver, but just as a human. It was incredible. Most important is that I express my gratitude to everybody that made this entire project happen. All of my friends that thrashed to get the car put back together and out on track, all of the sponsors that made the car a reality, and of course, to Haltech for making this trip a reality, for having us out here, for giving us a space to do all of this, for getting the car up and running once it came to Australia, and of course, for supporting us on this journey.